battle, there would be a number of issues that would be fundamentally different. Probably on same-sex marriage, there would be a difference of opinion between Senator Obama and me. I mean, I could go through a whole litany of things that would be dramatically different. I think, in fact, it would be fair to say that any one of us would have a very different litany of issues. But in fairness, since I still have just a little bit of yellow light left, I think we also ought to recognize that what Senator Obama has done is to touch at the core of something Americans want. They are so tired of everything being horizontal, left, right, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. They're looking for vertical leadership that leads up, not down. He has excited a lot of voters in this country. Let's pay respect for that. He's a likable person who has excited people about wanting to vote who have not voted in the past. And we'd better be careful as a party, because if we don't give people something to be for and only something to be against, we're going to lose that next election, and there are some fundamental issues that we lose with it.
Congressman Paul.
You know, it's interesting that you asked this question because we have a lot of similarities. Matter of fact, Barack Obama and myself, because our campaign is made up of the young people. And frequently we will have young people joining us that came from the Barack Obama's campaign, and we're very pleased. But Barack spoke out against the war before it started, and he respects civil liberties, and I respect him for that. But the question is why would it be? I assume it's because of the similarity in the age of us two candidates that the young people are attracted to us. But it's the youthfulness of the ideas that bring the young people to us. But there is a difference between what Barack Obama is talking about, because he does give hope to young people, and that's what happens in our campaign. But I talk a lot more about different kind of economic policies. I talk about personal liberty and the right to people's personal life, and getting stopping these wars and coming home and having a sensible monetary policy, and young people like this. But Barack Obama is not going to talk about the goal of getting rid of the income tax and dealing with monetary policy. I mean, he is too much into the welfare state issue, not quite understanding how free market economics is the truly compassionate system. If we care about the poor and want to help the poor, you have to have free markets. You can't have a welfare state in order to try to take care of people.
Let me move on. People in this state and everywhere are worried about gas prices. When 2007 began, oil was $61 a barrel. It was $100 last week. We haven't even begun to see the demand that India and China is going to put on the world's oil markets. Don't you have to, in the end, level with people that gas prices are at this level to stay, and if anything, they're going to go higher? And isn't not to do so intellectual dishonesty? Anybody? Good.
I'll be glad to answer that question, because it's something I talk about all the time, and it's a very important question. The Wall Street Journal yesterday had a very good chart that explains this. If you look at the price of oil in the last 10 years, if you look at it in terms of dollars, it went up 350%. If you look at it in euros, it went up about 200%. If you look at it in the price of gold, it stayed flat. It's the inflation, it's the printing of money, it's the destruction of the value of the dollar. Added on to this, the notion that we go to protect our oil. Oil was $27 when we went over there to get the oil and protect the oil and take the oil from Iraq. There's less than about half the production now in Iraq right now, and we're threatening Iran, and that pushes prices up. It pushes up the concept of supply and demand. But you can't deal with the price of oil without dealing with the supply and demand of dollars. When you devalue the dollar, and the dollar is going down every day, and the further the dollar goes down, the higher the prices of oil going up. We have to understand that.
Senator?
At that price of oil, we're going to send $400 billion a year overseas to oil-producing countries. Some of that money will end up in the hands of terrorist organizations. It will certainly end up in the hands of dictators who do not have our interests or our values, and sometimes want to harm America. We have to reduce the dependence on foreign oil, and we have to address the issue of greenhouse gas emissions. I think it's a nexus of two critical issues facing this country: alternate energy, nuclear power, wind, solar, tide, hybrids. We have to unleash the technology of America. And we must reduce and eventually eliminate this dependency on foreign oil because it has become a national security issue, and we have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions because I believe there's enough evidence that we are going to damage this planet beyond repair unless we begin to address that issue.
Senator Thompson, Americans are also watching the profits of companies here in America that are making a lot of money as these prices per barrel are skyrocketing. They're bothered by it. People in New Hampshire are bothered by this. Aren't you?
Bothered by the high profits?
By the profits, yes.
Yeah,
Should something not be done?
Well, I take note of those profits, and I take note of the losses when they've had them.
But you wouldn't step in to do anything to change the...
Such as what?
Excess profits tax?
Windfall profits tax? No, no. You know, the oil price basically is a function or a result of supply and demand. Now, we can throw rocks at each other and we can demagogue the issue and all that, and of course there's plenty of it. But getting back to your original question, Charlie, I mean, nobody knows what the price of oil is going to be in the future, but I think you can make a good case that it's going to be very high, because it's not just us. The Chinese are demanding more oil, going around the world and making all kinds of deals with dictators and causing all kinds of other problems because of it. India, there are a lot of growing economies out there. And that's the world we live in for the immediate future. We're not going to be energy independent in a few years. Now, we have to be more diversified. We're getting too much oil from trouble spots in the world. Everybody knows about the Middle East. Everybody knows about Chavez and Venezuela. And we're too dependent on the wrong kinds of people. And we need to do all the things that John mentioned, as I recall, the things he mentioned, plus cleaner coal technology, plus using the oil reserves that we have here in this country, and nuclear, more nuclear. But you know, we are not, you know, we're not a nation that regulates the profits or the losses of our economy. We want people refining that oil, and we want people, and there hasn't been a refinery built here in a long time in this country, and we want the oil to flow. We need for it to flow right now while we work our way into a more diversified situation.
Any of you buy the idea of an excess
we really
profits
have to take the idea of energy independence and turn it into a program for energy independence. We've been talking about it since Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, never done it. And it has to be done on the scale of putting a man on the moon. All of the things that they've all talked about, we've talked about it a long time, we just haven't done it. We've got to expand nuclear, we've got to do clean coal, we've got to expand the use of hybrid vehicles, wind, solar, hydroelectric, liquid natural gas, domestic oil, more refineries. Senator Thompson is absolutely right. We haven't built a refinery, I think, in 30 years. We haven't licensed a nuclear power plant in 30 years. France is 80% nuclear, we're 20% nuclear. China is building 40 nuclear power plants. We're having trouble getting one licensed for the last 30 years. If we don't make this a major program led by the President of the United States, the way Eisenhower started the program to put a man on the moon, and then Kennedy followed, and then Johnson followed, and Nixon got it done. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. It should be an American achievement.
Nuclear is a very interesting issue here in the state of New Hampshire. Governor Huckabee?
Well, I think it is possible to get energy independent and do it within a decade. We're the same country that built an atomic. I believe we can, if we want to. If we untax the possibilities of the innovations and technologies. If we also look at the fact that if put an incentive out there that's just truly something dramatic, a $1 billion bonus for the first person who can produce a car that can get 100 miles per gallon. In addition to that, look at the alternative forms of energy that we can use. And everybody's talked about
profits tax. There'd be no windfall profits tax on that.
There wouldn't be. No, and I don't believe there should be, Fred, because I think we ought to untax innovation, untax income. Anytime you penalize productivity, it's counterintuitive to an economy. And one of the reasons that we're dependent on this is because we have allowed the oil companies to dictate not just prices, but policy. And it's time to say that we're not going to allow dictators, whether it's the Middle East or from Venezuela, to continue to, in essence, enslave the American people, which is exactly what we've done. Senator McCain is right. We have an issue now where we're paying for both sides of the war on terror. We pay for it with our tax dollars to fund the military, but every time we swipe our credit card in the gas pump, we might as well be sending a check over to the madrasas that are training the terrorists that eventually are going to come back to us. And that's why it's got to be an urgent matter of utmost priority.
We are just about out of time, but Governor Romney, you're going to have the final word.